Today we're going to be looking at Kinnara the Flying Dagger Season 1 hero from Call of Dragons, and we're going to go over all of her pairings, talent pages, and skills, obviously, to give you the maximum information you need to rock Kinnara in Call of Dragons. Hello everyone, and yes, welcome to today's video. Smash like, comment, and subscribe for more daily videos with me, MrSneakyy. And we're here today covering Kinnara, right? A lot of you voted, as you can imagine, on the community page for Kinnara the Flying Dagger, and she was heard, so here she is, right? So today we're going to go over, obviously, everything you need to know about Kinnara, the skills, your talent pages, your pairings with your artifacts, and your pets, right? So you guys understand everything to do with it. So let's just quickly go through her skills. Let's blast those out, and then we can go into the more important things, right? So Kinnara, obviously archer hero, you're going to get access to her in your season 1. She's the lucky wheel commander of that season. And what you're going to be able to do, as you can imagine, for the archers, you're going to get some nice skills out of it. And the reason why everyone likes her and why you should be picking up Kinnara no matter what is because of how tanky she basically makes archers, right? And the reason she makes archers tanky is from this first skill, because making anyone deal 15% less damage, and that is from normal attacks, skill damage, counter attacks, even crit, right? You're reducing so much damage from that single march. It is so beneficial. On top of this, you're doing a nice 1400 single target damage nuke, which is really good for this hero, right? On top of this, we have some really good skills as well. Hero skill damage taker reduction, minus 10%, even better, right? So even if you're going to get hit by the AoE randomness of mage marchers, you're going to be reducing that by 10%. And then on top of this, you've got 20% normal attack damage to give you that little bit of punching power through all of your auto attacks per turn, right? On this, we got just some standard stats, 30% flat physical attack, nothing too crazy. And then finally, the really cool part about okay, I actually like is this passive final skill. So whenever your Kinnara Legion is hit with a normal attack, they have a 20% chance to get the physical riposte buff and inflicting a solo on the target. So what this does is it increases her Legion's physical damage dealt bonus, and it applies a march speed reduction onto that target. So you can see you're going to get a massive 30% counterattack damage dealt bonus. It's nasty with some of the pairings, right? And then obviously the march speed is great. You want to slow down targets so you can chase them down and kill them as an archer player. And with Kinnara, honestly, to make her even better, she does have a 5th additional skill, which is the, awakening of her other 4 skills. And this is just a simple defense break. So whenever you're launching a normal attack, you're going to have a 20% chance to inflict a defense break for 3 seconds, and the defense reduction is by 20%. This is great, because again, if you're mitigating those higher players' defense, if they've got better tech than you, you're actually going to be dealing a lot more damage than you originally was. So you can see you've got basically 5 different skills. You're not getting an awakening. That's just an additional bonus on one of your previous skills, which is very, very important in the long run of Call of Dragons, right? So now we've gone over his skills. Let's go over quickly at the pairings, because I think once we go over the pairings, it'll make sense when we get into the pets and the artifact section, right? So at the start of the game, obviously, if you're in season 1, the main pairing that everyone's going to have access to is going to be that Kinnara and Neeko. This, to be honest, even today in season B2, if you're still rocking this, no one's going to hate you, because with an awakened Neeko and that Kinnara, you're going to do some insane damage due to, obviously, the bullseye getting triggered from Neeko. But even if you don't have it and maybe you're a lower spender, this is still a great march, because at 5-1-5-5, the more important stuff is you're getting some defense breaks from Neeko, as you guys know, but this actual counter-attack damage bonus is really nice with your, Kinnara's physical counter-attack damage bonus. So it's really, really nice to see these two honestly synergize together. If you don't have a good Neeko, I am going to recommend, honestly, Kinnara and Craig. This is another super free-to-play friendly option, and everyone will have an awakened Craig really soon at some point. And the reason why this is so strong is because of the current meta being very choke point heavy, right? And there's a load of mages being out there, and because there's loads of mages out there, the beautiful thing that Craig provides, especially for a free-to-play player, is that AoE damage, guys. AoE damage is something archers just do not have access to, and this, honestly, skill alone deals an absurd amount of damage. So this is actually a really good deputy to put behind your Kinnara, right? So now we're going to go into the next season, right? So you're going into the season T1 and you're going to get access to Syndreon and Freyga. And to be honest, Kinnara with both of these heroes is really good. The one I would say is better is going to be your Kinnara and Syndreon. This is just honestly very reminiscent of a Rise of Kingdom March, which is like Saladin and Khan, right? You've got this really good hero that basically is very tanky, but then you've got Syndreon. That's all the damage what she needs, right? She might be missing out on that damage, and he is going to support that. So it's really, really nice to have. But some players don't get Syndrome, right? And this is kind of why we said Freyga. And I've heard, and I've tested it out myself, Kinnara Freyga is a very fine match. It's, again, basically two commanders in this game that just has 4 skills, all tailored to PvP combat. That's very, very massive for this match again, right? So now we're going into the final season, or the current season, right? So we're in season B2. And Kinnara with Magrat. Oh boy, I love this match. This is basically very similar to Syndrome, but the difference is Magrat is going to give you that heal, right? The variable healing from this match is going to keep you even more sustained than before. And on top of this, you're going to get some nice stats, right? Whenever you're getting healed, you're getting that 40% attack, and you're getting 20% HP bonus. So it's really, really crazy how tanky you can make a Kinnara Magrat match. There's only one other match I need to mention, as you guys can imagine, and this is only for the big spenders now, if you are one of those big boys, and it is Kinnara with your Husk. This is a match to, you know, T4 Menace. Let's just say that. It's the T4 Menace on the field, and a Mage Menace as well. And what I mean by that is, Husk with Kinnara is a very devastating combo due to 2 major things. Husk is going to provide that insane 10% damage bonus, plus all these nice extra stats. But what's really, really nice is the fact that we're getting that counterattack crit rate that's increased all the way up to a maximum of 30%. And the normal attack crit rate is also increased, right? So for an archer commander, that is insane. We're getting crit rate on our normal attacks, and for Kinnara, her physical counterattack damage bonus is getting even more love because of that counterattack. And this is one match, if you have access to it, you'll never be disappointed with it. Because Husk Kinnara, you just put it out there, and honestly, it just prints you merits for anyone who targets it, right? So it's a very, very meta pay-to-win match. So now let's go into the artifacts and the pets, right? Because the artifacts and pets for Kinnara is pretty easy, I think, when it comes to what you want to do. So if we go into the artifact section, you're obviously going to have Shadow Blades from the get-go, and this is going to be your main kind of like artifact you will use until you get some of the better artifacts in the game, right? This just gives you AoE nice damage, as you can imagine, for your Kinnara. But the better one, as you can imagine, and it is her own weapon, is the Rattle Spear. This is just disgusting on this march, right? You're inflicting, obviously, slow onto the march when you're doing the active. But on top of this, the additional effect, when your Legion inflicts a defense break, which we do with an awakened Kinnara, or if you have that Nico behind her, you're gonna ignore an additional 10% of the enemy's defense for 7 seconds. It's just really nice, right? It's just really nice to have this on that match with super high attack as well to make you punch even harder. And then another artifact I really want to talk about, honestly, is Viola's Bow. This is one of the artifacts that gets honestly slept on, especially with Kinnara, because look how much HP we are gaining, right? It is insane how tanky your match will become with Viola's Bow. And on top of this, because of the meta right now with artifacts like the Spirit Bone Torque being used, Mirage Orb, and all of the brand new ones coming out in the future, this artifact is going to become an all-star. Being able to stop players from activating any sort of their effects for 10 seconds, it's massive, because that could stop them potentially casting a future, like, better version of, like, a dragon scale armor, right, where they're not taking any damage. It'd be so good if you can stop that, because they're going to get melted for doing so, right? When we're coming down into these other options, though, I will say, if you are more of a, lower player and you do not have access to, obviously, these, you can always run Heart Piercer. This isn't bad at all, as you can imagine. 65% chance to do a defense break. Why not, right? It's a really good positive artifact. And if you want to try be a little bit more experimental, I will also, it sounds a bit crazy, but recommend Dagger of Betrayal. This thing is so good for any match, right? If you can actually fit this in, if you haven't got a good artifact, this is a very powerful one, because it's dispelling buff from a random enemy legion every 8 seconds. And the top of this, when you do so many dispellings, you're also dealing a little bit of extra damage. And to be honest, if you have this on autocast, it's just going to do its thing. And that's what I kind of like about it. You don't have to worry about it. It's just going to do its thing, right? And then finally, the only other artifact I do want to recommend, if you have it, and I really do like this artifact too, is Steelheart Avenger, guys. It's AoE. For the first time, you get a bit of AoE onto your mark. So if you have this too, you could run this over maybe the Heart Piercer or the Dagger. I think this would be stronger, because you're just getting more damage and it's AoE, right? So really good little, epic artifact. When it comes to the pets is very, very simple. You really want to run Snow Peak Rock, right? If you're running a Awakened Kinnara or a Kinnara Nico March, you're definitely going to be running Snow Peak Rock, because you're going to be defense breaking, especially if you're running a certain tree on that Kinnara. And then you also, as you can imagine, getting defense break through Nico. So it's a really nice, stable pet that you can always run. If you're going to be running, obviously, Freyga with that Kinnara, you can easily do Night Rock. Night Rock is going to be fine. And sometimes some people have been using Night Rock with the Syndron March. I personally don't like it. If you're going to run Kinnara Syndron, I would rather still run that Snow Peak Rock, just because she has the guaranteed passive, break from her kit. So it's so much better. However, there's two other options you can still pick, even though we haven't, obviously, been focused on the birds mainly. And that is going to be Venomous Lizard. This is just, as you can imagine, a very stable, very staple as well, meta pet for this march. If you're going to use a Hoss Kinnara march, you're definitely going to be rocking a Venomous Lizard. If you don't have a good pet and you just want to make sure if anyone targets you, you're going to get that extra bit of damage with that counterattack, Venomous Lizard basically fulfills that slot. So it's a really good pet. And on top of this, Sand Lizard. Some people build it. Some people like it, right? And if you want to sustain and you just want to heal, why not, right? I'm just going to put this at the bottom of the list of like priorities, but it's an okay pet to run if you have it, right? So I'm going to be fair on you guys. So now we've gone over all of the skills. We've gone over the pairings as well through all the seasons and how I think about it. And then the artifacts and pets. So now let's get into the juicy talent pages that you can be running on Kinnara. So we're going to be giving you 3 different talent pages for this hero. So if you rock any of these pages, you're going to be doing fine. They all have their own reasons on why you might want to use them over the other. And to be honest, it comes down to preference. So that's the one thing people do forget about this game. There isn't a single best talent tree. One talent tree might be better for the way you play. So that's why I give you 3 different trees, right? So this is the first tree. This is kind of like the staple tree that I like to use more often than not. I know if I use this, I'm not really gonna lose out on anything. It's a very safe talent page, right? So what we're going to do is basically start off this tree with the control tree. Sounds crazy, I know, because we have all these points into PvP, but the control tree is the most important part because we need that rage generation in our march. If we don't have any of it, honestly, the PvP tree is very lackluster. So let's go into the first points, right? So we're getting obviously 10% march speed, really nice, and 4% counterattack damage, which is obviously perfect with our skills. And then on top of this, we're gonna do the combination of head held high with soul siphon just for any type of counterattacks, and when we're launching normal attacks, we're getting that rage, right? And we need to generate as much rage from these two, which we're generally going to do as being an archer player. One other point you could save, or if you want to put it down as soon as you hit this point, you can, is going to be blindside. And a lot of people do not take this talent, and I really want to stress you should be taking it, because a lot of people do not understand that you're not really wanting this whole buff on the 6%, right? It's very nice that you're reducing their, march speed by 6% when you enter battle with them. But the beautiful thing about putting 1 point into this skill and you're reducing their march speed by 6%, it will trigger your Backstabber here. And Backstabber inflicts 2% more just flat damage whenever you inflict a debuff. So this is why it's so good to just take that 1 point. You get 2% extra damage flat across all boards, right? So now, once we've finished that control tree, we're going to go into our PvP, right? So the PvP tree here is very, again, I think simple, and I need to explain some bits to you, right? So we're going to go 5 points into overall attack, and depending on what type of player you are, you can do either 5 points into overall speed, 5 points into rivalry, or you can do some sort of split, right? And the reason why is march speed is very, very important, but you might be a bit more greedy like me and you want to do more damage, right? Which is understandable. Then on the second tree, I always go overall health. I don't really care about dealing more skill damage on the field because this is an archer-based hero. And then on top of this, head held high. If you try and put 5 points into this with the 5 points you've already put into the bottom one, you're not going to generate as much rage as you think. We've done the test. Loads of content creators have done the test and showcased putting basically 10 points into head held high isn't going to generate you basically an extra turn. It's not worth those 5 points. So that's why we're going to go for health. Just make our troops tankier. And because we're very tanky and I want to kind of promote the tankiness, we're going to do luck of the draw. And this is perfect for our hero, right? We kind of love taking damage because of the counterattack damage bonus that we're going to be dealing to other players. On top, if you're going to run like a Hosk, you really like this on top, right? Because you're reducing all damage taken. It's a 3% flat reduction on all damage, which is really nice for our march. And then to finish things off, we're going to go for 5% counterattack damage, 1.5% more damage, and that's on across all boards. I don't have to really explain why we need those. And I really like rested response. And if you do want to take stubborn fighter, I understand it. It's not bad at all. But I prefer the rested response. Just hitting 300 troops every 10 seconds, basically once you've defeated an enemy, is very nice. It just gives you that little bit of sustain throughout the fights. And you can hopefully get a bit more merits by doing some good trades. And then on the top, Blessing of Fury. No other option. I don't care. You could put Breach Blade if you really, really want. So whenever you want to get an additional defense break if you want. But I don't want this tree to be that. We have a different tree for that. So now, if we go to Blessings of Fury, you can see here, nice and simple, when the casting rage skill, we're going to get that 10% HP. So much more beneficial for our march. So that is going to be the first tree. This is basically a very safe tree if you're going to use Kinnara. You can just basically whack this on, and I'm telling you, you're not going to be, sad about it. It's going to do some great damage. It's going to keep you up in the battlefield, and you're going to, get some merits, which is the most important part. So now let's go into the second actual tree, and this one's going to be more about defense breaking for marchers like that Nico, Kinnara, Rattle Spear March. So this is the next tree I want to go over. It's a little bit more based on defense break, and as you can imagine, it's more control. So this is a full control tree if you're looking to play control, and it's more about inflicting as many different types of debuffs as well to trigger that backstab, right? It's the most important thing in this build. So what we're going to do is the same thing as before. We kind of go down this whole route with the, overall march speed. We're going to get the last word. And as you can see this time, I'm actually going down the egoism route. We're taking less skill damage in this tree. And then we're going to go for Soul Siphon. Because what we're going to do is use a lot of the debuffs basically just to increase our flat damage more often than not. And what I mean by that is pretty simple. We take blindside again, that 1 point just to trigger this backstabber trigger we have over here, so you guys can see it. And then what we're going to do is pretty simply go on to 3% less counterattack damage. So if we do maybe fight another Kinnara, or if we hit a T5, at least it's going to, not make us cry, right? We want to not just get melted within 5 seconds of targeting something we're not supposed to, right? But now this is where the tree gets really interesting, right? We're going to be taking ambush, and this is why we've gone down this route over going all the way up to PvP to take this pretty much the exact same one. This is reducing their defense by 10% for 30 seconds. This is going to be reducing on launch on a normal attack their defense by 4% for 5 seconds. And this is just refreshed, right? So you're going to get this off more often than you're going to get this off, right? And that's why we've gone down the control tree, in my opinion. And then on top of this, if you wanted to, you don't have to do this. You can go full 5 points into ambush to maximize the defense break to 5%. But I actually do like putting 1 point into tremble, just so when we do cast that rage skill, we reduce their attack by 1%. But again, it's going to trigger Backstabber, and this is 2% more damage. So you're getting an additional benefit from doing so. And then from all of this, we're going to get Sage. Sage is a really cool one. This is actually going to increase our actual skill damage because of all of these different debuffs that we're applying, which is really nice on the march. And then on top of this, Retician. I really like Retician, and I was determining about Autumn and Rains. I don't know how good this is going to be, because I want to test if this could be potentially broken and like remove long range talent, or it could remove certain things. We'll have to test that out. But for now, Retician is so much more safe, right? You're just stopping them casting their rage skills for 2 seconds. If it's an infantry march, if it's a mage march, you know, you stop them from shielding, damage reduction, or AoE damage. Very, very, very nice. So from here, we're going to do pretty much the exact same. Unfortunately, in the PvP, we're going to go down into the attack, into the overall speed, and then this time, because we didn't take it on that control tree, we'll get that head held high. So we still have that same combination, basically, but spread across 2 trees. And then we're going to do the same. Reduce all the damage taken and put 1 point into Fearless. A nice, simple one. And I really do like this one. It's a little bit different play style compared to the first one, but it's a very good and interesting one that I like. So let's go into the third and final one. And this is the current build I am currently playing on Season B2. So this is the very final build, and this is the one I'm running technically right now in Season B2, and it's going to be using more of the Marksman tree compared to any of the other trees, and then obviously still dipping into the control. So just like the first talent page, if you've checked that out, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go into the control tree first. So you just want to get here, max out your march speed, get that last word and rage combination with obviously blindside just to trigger that 2% damage. So that's the control bit of it. We understand that hopefully by now if you've been following through the video. But now we're going to go into the Marksman tree, and this is my Marksman tree, and it might be a lot bit different to certain players, but I actually love this tree now. It's become so much of my favorite tree for this match because it gives you some insane stats. And the Marksman tree, compared to all the other trees, when we're going into them, does give you more stats per point. And what I mean by that is, if we look, we're going to get that attack, which is 2.5% here for maxing it out. But when we go into the Marksman march speed, 15% is just nothing to laugh at. You need this. I'm not gonna lie, as a Marksman player, I love having this march on now, because with this 15%, and as you can see now, we're only gaining 10% from the control tree. And even if we did the PvP, it's the exact same. We're only gaining 10%. So from specifically being in that Marksman tree, we've gained 5% extra. So in total, we've got 25% march speed. And that's so nice to have on a Marksman. I'm telling you, getting in and out of combat without march speed is painful, I will tell you. And then on top of this, because I really like being tanky, as you guys can see, I've gone for 1.5 less damage. It's just flat damage reduction. And I just want to survive there as long as possible. And by doing this, we're going to have Shower of Blows. It allows us for, you know, surviving longer. Basically, we're getting more casts, and because we're casting more, our Legion, as you can see, is going to have 50% chance to deal more damage. So it's benefiting us to be able to survive that, right? And then on top of this, this is kind of like, I would say, the stable of the Marksman tree. If you're not taking this, I don't know what you're doing. But it is Marksman HP, giving you that 2.5%. And then when you're above 50%, you have a flat 15% rage accumulation speed, which is great to have when you have these two together. This is just making you now into an absolute rage generating machine. So you can upkeep that 15% damage reduction onto them. And then from here, as you can see, we have Last Word. And this is really good for us because that means with the control tree, we have 8% counterattack damage built into our talent tree on top of all the counterattack damage we already deal, right? And to finish this off, you can choose either one depending on your march. You can go for Burst Shot if you just want to go for the jack of all trades, and you don't have to worry about what marches you're using. But I really do like Pursuit. Pursuit's really good if you're going to be using like a Kinnara Freyga or a Kinnara Syndron. It's a really good talent for those because they really want that, you know, auto attacks. Same with Kinnara Magra, really good as well for that match. So that is basically this final tree. Nice and simple one, honestly, with the Marksman and the control side all together for you guys. So hope with that, all 3 talent trees, you've got one to pick for what you want. And I know if you're looking as a spender, where's the Husk page for the Husk Kinnara? Well, this isn't the Husk guide. That will be in that specific guide later on, right? But for now, I think I've done a fantastic job explaining for you guys the skills, obviously the pairings throughout all the seasons, the artifacts, the pairs, pets, should I say, and obviously finally the 3 different talent pages you could be choosing to run and play with depending on what you want to do in your game. So that is everything you need to know, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. And if you have, you know what to do. Smash a like, comment, and subscribe. My name is MrSneakyy. I bring you guys Call of Dragons content every single day, and with that, stay safe guys, stay sneaky, and I'll check you out in the next video.